Good afternoon, BNI Rhode Island and Southeastern Massachusetts. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'm also a Director Consultant here in the Rhode Island and Southeastern Mass region, as well as a member of the BNI Wakefield chapter. Today's is the monthly scheduled President's Call. However, we're going to do things a little bit differently today. We're going to be doing a special webinar just for our region that is going to highlight some of the various leadership team level functions in BNI Connect. Now, we're going to be touching on a number of different leadership team functions. One of the reasons that we do that is because from a permissions perspective, the President, the Vice President, and the Secretary-Treasurer largely have the same level of access. And the reason for that is so that you guys can back each other up as a leadership team. You can kind of help each other out. For example, if your vice president happens to be out for a week or 2 weeks on vacation, well, the secretary-treasurer or the president can step in and enter the POMS report for the week. Similarly, if you don't yet have a mentor coordinator in your chapter, but you'd still like to be able to make sure that people are set up for the mentoring program, well, then the president or the vice president or secretary treasurer can go in and get a mentor and mentee pair assigned. If the secretary treasurer is out and you need to update the speaker rotation in BNI Connect, well, you can do that as well. So some of the things I'm going to show you today, even though it might be, for example, it's the vice president's responsibility to enter POMS reports, it would help for the presidents, for example, to know what that looks like. So here's a couple of things. Again, unlike a conference call, this is somewhat of a one-sided conversation in that it's more of a presentation than a full-fledged conversation. However, that being said, what you can do is if you have questions or comments as we're going through the material today, just type that question in. There's a questions chat panel, and if you type your question in, I'll see that pop up on my screen, and I can respond to that right away as we're going through things. A couple of other housekeeping things as we're going through. This call is being recorded, so for your leadership teams, looking at the list of names, I can see that we mostly have presidents on this call. However, if you have, let's say, there's information on this that you'd like your vice president to see or your secretary treasurer to see or your mentor coordinator to see or whoever, we'll be sharing the link to this recording that you can then forward on as necessary. I'll get this uploaded. We have a YouTube channel that this can go to, and you'll be able to review it there. That being said, a couple of resources that you may or may not know about. We do have a full support site in BNI Connect, and it has guides and walkthroughs and all sorts of things. The way to get to the support site is after you log into BNI Connect here, click on this question mark in the upper right-hand corner. The question mark in the upper right-hand corner will take you over to the support site. And on the support site, what you'll see is a whole bunch of things. You'll see a list of upcoming webinars, but you'll also see a thing that says chapter training and documentation. In here, we have every single function documented that has guides and walkthroughs. For example, I'm going to show you in a second what the email a visitor invitation looks like. Well, that's here as well. And you can see a guide with step-by-step instructions and a short video as to how to do this particular function, what to click, what it looks like, what all the different fields are, et cetera, et cetera. In here, you'll also see recorded webinars. And I'll be putting this in the I'm going to start a new one called December. I'll put this one into the December version, and from here you can see all of the recorded webinars month to month. Today's is going to be very similar to this particular webinar. You can always review this one as well. Leadership Team Tools and Reports. You'll also be able to find all of our videos up on youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. There's some special messages from Dr. Meisner. There's BNI Connect educational moments up here. So if you're looking for something for your educational coordinator to do on a month-to-month basis about BNI Connect, there's at least a dozen 3 to 5 minute videos that if you have technology, you can just play the video on specific functions within BNI Connect, like how to pass a referral in BNI Connect. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Hopefully everybody's already familiar with the online slips, so I'm not going to be going through any of that unless anybody has any specific questions about the online slips. Please post those, and I will be happy to get to those. One final thing, I am going to try to keep this to the 30 minutes that we usually have scheduled for this call. That being said, I am happy to stay on this call as long as people have questions. So if you have additional questions or you'd like to see some more things beyond the 30 minutes, I will stay on this call for an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, however long you guys want to until you're comfortable with what's in here. Okay? All right. So in order to look at some of the other functions in BNI Connect, we are going to have to get past this home screen. And this home screen is what all members see. It's the place to pass all the online slips, obviously. They can pass their referral slips or thank you for closed business slips. They can print out their weekly slips for the meeting. They can also review all of the slips that they've passed in. One of the things about the online slips very quickly is that when you pass an online slip, so if I was to, let's say, submit a CEU slip, once I submit this CEU slip, let's say I'm going to submit one here for 5 podcasts or a BNI webinar, as soon as you submit the slip, it will show up in your Review My Slips report. So if I go to Review My CEU Slips, it immediately shows up here at the bottom, and here's my 1 credit for the BNI podcast, BNI webinar. You will notice that it is in draft mode. That means that the VP hasn't submitted the weekly POMS report yet, and it's not part of any of the official statistics of BNI. For example, the My BNI business numbers up here at the top or the summary POMS report. Only after the meeting has happened will these numbers get updated, but they will appear in the Review My Slips reports right away. Again, to look at some of the leadership team functions, we are going to have to get past the home page. Now, a lot of people have said to me over the years, you know, BNI Connect, it's so confusing. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to look at. It's the most unfriendly system that I've ever encountered. Well, the way that I remember how to get to places in BNI Connect is you'll notice that there's menu items up at the top here. The important ones are the network, operations, and reports. Network is going to be all the social media things in BNI Connect. So when you want to interact with other people, both in your own chapter and around the world, you're going to go to the networking menu. That's where we have the discussion groups and the connections and things like that. Operations is where you're going to go to do any input. So anytime you're going to be interacting with the system, from entering POMS reports or inputting the speaker rotation or emailing a visitor invitation, inputting visitors, you're going to go to the operations menu. On the other hand, the reports menu is going to be all output. So that's going to be read-only stuff. So operations, when you want to do something, reports, when you want to get statistics or other information out of the system. So the first place we're going to go take a look through the operations menu and see some of the leadership team things that are there. So I'm going to go to operations and then to the chapter menu. And here we'll see our various items here on the left-hand side. Now, as leadership team people, you should see pretty much all of these options here. The way that BNI Connect works is that for, let's say, your members, depending on what roles you have in the system, will determine which of these links and which of these items will appear on the screen. So, for example, as a leadership team person, and you're looking at manage visitors, you'll see all 4 of these visitor options. Whereas if you're just a member logging into the system, you're probably only going to see this option here, which is register a prospective visitor before a meeting. Now, a couple of the very common tools that I want to show you guys right away. How many of you guys need to email your chapters on a regular basis? You might need to send out a message about an upcoming event or a reminder about the meeting or things like that. Typically, what we end up doing, at least before BNI Connect, I know what I used to do was to go to my sent items or go to my email list and see when the last group email message was sent, hit reply all, and just kind of hope that everybody got it. But it was never fully up to date because there was people that had dropped out of the chapter, there's people that had joined the chapter they didn't have email addresses for that weren't in that last email. So what BNI Connect has is this create email option. And there's 3 different things in here. The first one says email my chapter. Now the email my chapter, what this does is it gives you the ability to get a fully up-to-the-minute complete list of all of the email addresses in your chapter. So it's very easy to come here, go to email my chapter, you just highlight this list, copy it, and you can use whatever email program you want to at that point. So whether you're using Microsoft Outlook or you're using Gmail, all you need to do is start up a new message. I always recommend putting everybody into the BCC line. That way there's not this big long list of emails out there in case it gets forwarded outside the chapter. And start typing your message. Hit send and everybody in the chapter will get it. Now, contrary to popular belief, you do not have to have somebody in the to line. They can all be in the BCC line. That is okay. Now, obviously, I'm not going to send this message, but the second thing I wanted to show you in here is the email a visitor invitation. Now, this is a great way to invite somebody to come and visit your chapter, and it's really, really easy to use. When I click on this email visitor invitation, it's kind of like a BNI Mad Libs. All we have to do is fill out a couple of things here. So let's say that I went to a chamber networking event, for example, and I met somebody there, was telling them about BNI, and hey, why don't you come and visit my chapter meeting? I'd love to introduce you to all of my referral partners. They say, yeah, sure, that's great. Well, where do I go and what day and things like that? Well, rather than having to go back to your office and write out and try to figure out all the address information and think of what to say about BNI, you can send them an invitation right here from BNI Connect. So let's say I met John Smith at a networking event, and he's from Smith Co. Now I'm going to put in my own email address here so that you guys can see what this looks like. And then you can put in a personal message. The personal message is going to be the first paragraph of this invitation email, so you can say whatever you want and really make it personalized, so it has your voice and it's coming from you. So let's say it was great meeting you at the chamber event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. When I click send, it's going to take this and put it into a custom template that BNI has created with just the right of information in it and send it immediately to that email address. And I've already received it. It does go out immediately. And here it is. Dear John, it was great meeting you at the chamber event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. It then invites them. It puts your chapter name in. It puts your location that you meet, the address that you meet, the day that you meet, the time that you meet. It gives them a little bit of information about BNI, not too much, not too little. It lets them know that they're looking for somebody in that profession and to please RSVP with you. Now, if they hit reply on this, it will go back to you. Even though it's coming from BNI Connect, it will go back to your email address. So this is a great way to just get a quick professional BNI invitation out to a potential visitor. Now, let's say that you have emailed somebody and they accept the invitation and say, yeah, you know what, that sounds great. I'm definitely going to be coming to the meeting. They RSVP back with you. One of the other great things that we can do is to pre-register visitors for an upcoming meeting. Now, this does a whole bunch of different things. The first of which is that it will make your visitor host's job much, much easier. The second thing it does is it now becomes a more formalized invitation to the chapter. By registering them to come to the meeting, they will get a confirmation message saying you are registered to come to this meeting. Now that increases the likelihood that they're actually going to show up. I'm sure it's never happened in any of your chapters that you invite somebody to a meeting and they say they're going to come, you even call and check in with them and, oh yeah, I'll be there. Then all of a sudden 7 o'clock Thursday morning rolls around and they must have hit the snooze button a couple more times and they don't show up. A lot of times that's because they're thinking in their head, well, you know what? Nobody's expecting me to be there. I'm just going to blow this one off. by registering them ahead of time, this will send them a registration message, and it will also send you guys on the leadership team, as well as all of your visitor hosts, an email message saying that somebody has registered to visit the chapter. So let's say Mr. Smith here is going to come to the meeting on the 3rd. And I can fill out all of this information. Now, the more information I put in now, the less information my visitor host is going to have to put in later. And the email address. Once I click Submit, I have to choose a profession and a specialty. Once I choose Submit, they will get a registration message. They'll get a second message 2 days before the chapter meeting. And here is actually my registration message saying that I am confirmed to visit the Burr chapter up in Antarctica. Now, how this makes your visitor hosts much happier is that now after the meeting and all of these visitors have shown up, all they have to do is mark attendance for these visitors. So instead of having to take that visitor sign-in sheet and go through it and go off the chicken scratch on that sign-in sheet, all they need to do is go to Manage Registered Visitors and mark attendance. Now I can see all of the people that have registered to visit various meetings. And let's say for last week, I'm going in, I'm the visitor host, and Tammy Martinez had registered to visit last week's meeting. I can go in, and rather than having to type everything out all over again, I just need to do visitor attended. I can also choose whether or not the person that invited them is going to get credit in the Palms report. I verify who invited them. And I click Submit. I can also choose whether or not to send the follow-up email. Now this person is no longer a registered visitor. They are in our visitor database, which means now we have reports on them. We can follow up with them later. And somebody lost audio. Claire says she lost audio. Is anybody else having the problem? How are the rest of you guys? Can everybody else hear me, or is it just Claire? No, Brenda says she's okay. Beth said I'm okay. Peter says I'm fading. Vanessa says she's okay. Okay, I think most people are saying they're good. We have a couple of people that might be having audio problems. I'll just move the mic a little closer, and hopefully we won't have any other ones. All right, so again, and then if a visitor hadn't pre-registered, you can just go to Add a Visitor, and that would add a visitor so you can start tracking your visitors that show up to the meeting. Let me go back to the operations menu. There's a couple of more things that I want to show you. Now, for you secretary treasurers out there, one of the things that you can do is to make sure that your speakers are all input into BNI Connect. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. The first of which is that when you input your speakers online in BNI Connect, they get a notification. They get a reminder that they're speaking. If you've ever had somebody show up to the meeting forgetting that they were the 10-minute presenter or the 8-minute presenter that week, then you know that it's pretty embarrassing for the member, and then as a leadership team, you're also struggling to try to find somebody to fill that time slot, or you end up just skipping it. Putting them into the speaker rotation in BNI Connect will send them a reminder 6 days before the meeting. So the day after your chapter meeting, I'll send them a reminder saying, you're up next in the speaker rotation. And then also 3 days before the meeting, it will remind them again that they're the speaker, and it will also remind the secretary treasurers who's speaking. On top of that, it will also put the speaker rotation up on your chapter website. So I'm in the Wakefield chapter, And you can see that all of our upcoming speakers are listed on the public website. This is just another Google presence for you out there on the internet. Now, entering the speaker rotation is pretty simple to do. All we have to do is go to Meeting Management. So these are the aspects of the meeting, Meeting Management, and we're going to click on View, Edit Speakers. Once we get here, we can go back in time if we want to and see who used to be scheduled or who was scheduled at any given time and who's upcoming speakers. To assign a new speaker for an open spot, we click on Assign Speaker. So let's say I want to assign the speaker in my Burr chapter for the upcoming meeting. And I think Harvey Keitel is going to be speaking that week. And he's going to be talking about his new upcoming movie. And click Submit. And that's it. That's all there is to it as far as assigning a speaker. If you have 2 speakers in your chapter, you will be able to submit a second speaker for a particular date. If you don't, it will give you an error message. If you need to remove somebody and put somebody else in there, you can just delete them. All right, for those of you that are vice presidents, you already know how to do this, but I'm going to give a quick 1-minute demonstration of how to enter a POMS report if you are a secretary treasurer or a president. Entering the POMS report does need to be done on a weekly basis. To do this, we just go to Meeting Management again, and we can click on Enter POMS. Now, the first thing we'll see is that before we have the ability to enter the POMS, we'll see all of the visitors that have been entered into the system since the last time we entered a POMS report. So we can see here that Jason Smith was recorded as visiting on the 19th. Do I want to add that person to the 19th's POMS report? I can see who's going to get the credit for it, and I can choose yes or no. Reasons why you might want to say no: if it was, let's say, a second visit or a third visit or a fourth visit, if they're not an eligible visitor, for example, those would be reasons to say no. Same thing with Tammy Martinez. That would be for the 26th. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes for both of these visitors. Now it's going to ask me what date I would like to enter the POMS report for. So I'm going to enter the report for last week, the 26th. And from here, it's pretty much just a spreadsheet. Now, you'll notice that the visitor that Alfred E. Newman invited is already listed here for credit. And you can see if I click on the SLIPS audit report, we'll see all of the online activity. Now, this chapter hasn't been doing the online slips, so there's no online slips already entered. But let's take a look at what a chapter that uses the online slips looks like, because it ends up being much, much easier for the vice presidents. Let me switch over to the Rhode Island region here. And let's say I'm going to go and enter the last week's POMS meeting. So what we see here is that this meeting wasn't entered yet, but all of this information is already in the POMS report. So now the vice president of my chapter, all they really need to do is go in and mark attendance, and if anybody had turned in paper slips, put those into this spreadsheet. And I can also double check, click on the SLIPS audit report, and see all of the activity for the week. I can even sort it by slip type, and if I need to use this, for example, for a referral reality check, I could choose from these referrals listed. Once I'm done, I just need to click Submit, which I'm not going to do here. But that's how you enter a POMS report. So it's pretty straightforward. Presidents that are on the call today, be a hero the next time your vice president is out and offer to input their POMS report for them. All right, just one other thing that I'm going to show you here on the operations menu, and that is if you do have mentor coordinators in your chapter, you want to make sure that they're assigning mentor-mentee pairs. In addition, if you don't have a mentor coordinator and you'd still like to assign mentors, the way to do that is right here using mentoring program, and I can assign a mentor and a mentee. It's pretty straightforward. We just click a day that we want the mentorship to start. Now, this is going to be the day that they start receiving emails. It's a 7-week email campaign. The mentors and mentees should be meeting once a week for 7 weeks. And this will send them an email saying, this week you want to meet to talk about this. And it gives them the topics to talk about. So you would just choose a date that you'd like that campaign to start, choose who the mentor is, choose who the mentee is, and click Submit. It will then start that mentorship, and they will move forward from there. If you'd like to see the list of mentees, you can click on the View option, and you can choose a date range. And our chapter doesn't have any currently assigned mentors and mentees, but that's where you would view them. All right, there's other things in the operations menu that we're not going to have time to go through today, but there's also a goals program where you can measure your goals on a month-to-month basis, and it will actually take the information from the POMS report and tell you how you're doing in regards to your goals. But I'd like to show you just a couple of the reports in the system. So if we go to Reports Chapter, there is a ton of reports. Rose has a question about correcting a POMS report. I'll show you that in just a second. But a couple of quick reports. You guys should already be familiar, hopefully. You have the chapter roster report is one of the most important reports in here. This will show you your current chapter roster, obviously, but also at the top of this report, it will show you all of your current officers for your chapter. You want to make sure that you take a look at this report to make sure that you actually have people assigned. Now, I know in my personal chapter, we have an educational coordinator, but they're not listed here. That means that this person did not finish their online training, and they need to have certified to finish that online training before they can be listed here. So take a look at your roster report and make sure that you have your permissions filled, your positions filled. On the bottom, it will also show you all of the members. It'll show you a phone number in case you need to get in touch with them, and also a 90-day view of their POMS. Now, for you leadership team people, you also want to be familiar with the membership dues report. Now, this is basically the same as the roster report. It's going to give you a list of all the members, but it'll also show you when everybody is due for renewal. Especially your vice presidents and membership committees should be going into this report on a regular basis. The reason for that is you should have a review process set up for all of the members in your chapter. 6-month review, 3-month review, and especially once you're up for renewal, they should be reviewing those people. So this will give you a heads up. Now, we do get a copy of this emailed from the regional office, but if you'd like to get ahead of it, especially for a 6-month review and or a 3-month review, this is the place to go to find out who is up for renewal. So right now, we want to make sure that we're probably reviewing people that are due in May, which is 6 months out. That way, they actually have a chance to make a change to anything that they might be struggling with in the chapter. Now, the next one here, this one's going to seem like a ridiculously simple and silly report, but to me, this is one of the most powerful reports in the system from a member standpoint, and this is called the Meeting Notes Report. Now, if I click the Meeting Notes Report, it's, again, a very simple report. All it is the person's name, the person's company, and a big blank space to keep notes. Now, the purpose of this report is so that you can print this out, pass it out at the meeting, give one to every member, and they can take notes during the meeting about what people are looking for. Now, there's a lot of chapters that produce this manually and just add and remove people from the list, but the system does it for you here, and it makes it a lot easier to produce and to make sure that you have all the right people on that list. Now, printing this out, it doesn't give you a whole lot of space to take notes. My recommendation with this one is to export this report. Now, export without headers means it won't have all of this stuff at the top, and it will allow us to open this up in Excel, and from here I can take it and basically make this notes field bigger and do all sorts of stuff. Here's a little power tip for you. My favorite button in Microsoft Excel is right here. It says Format as Table. Pick a little color scheme, let's say green, and now I can sort this list any way I want. So let's say I want this sorted by first name instead of last name. I can do that. I can also take this and let's say I want that notes field to be a little bit bigger to give people more room to take notes. I can do all of that in Microsoft Excel, be able to print it out the way I want it to, force it to one page, or duplex it, whatever I want to do. All right, there are a bunch more reports in here that we probably won't have time to go through. Again, I am happy to stay on this call for anybody that wants to stick around a little bit longer and see a couple more things. Drop me a little note and I can show you some more things here. But for those of you that do need to leave right away, just a reminder, it is being recorded. We'll send out a link to the recording as soon as I'm able to get it transcoded and uploaded. But I know before I go too much further, I know Rose had a question. How do I fix a POMS report if I made an error in it? So let me show you how to fix a POMS report if I made an error. So let me go back. I don't want to mess up one of my own POMS reports here in my real region, but we would go back to Operations chapter. From there, we go to Meeting Management again. And what I want to do now is I want to view the POMS summaries. And from here, I can go back and look at any individual POMS report. I just choose a date range. I can go back as long as I want to, and you can see these are all the individual POMS reports. So let's say this one from October 12th. I'm sorry, from November 12th, I need to make an edit on, and it's already been completed. So I would click the word completed, and this will open up a copy of the POMS report. At the bottom of the screen, you should see a button that says Unlock POMS. I can then unlock it. This allows me to go back in and edit it. So let's say that this person, Becky, had submitted a slip for $10,000 instead of $1,000. I can add a 0 there. And let's say John Smith number 1 was actually absent that week. Can make those corrections. Click Submit POMS. This will then resubmit it, close it out, and update all of the statistical reports. Does that help, Rose? Does that answer your question? All right, Rose says, what do I do with the actual, I'm assuming you mean the paper slips once I have entered them. The paper slips, I mean, I would hold on to them, put a rubber band around them and hold on to them for a short period of time. The referral slips you may want to use for the referral reality checks. For the rest of the slips, I mean, I'd leave them there. I'd hold on to them long enough to be sure that nobody has any arguments over any of them. But then, unless I know Peter's on the line with us today and Beth, a couple of other directors, Unless they have a different point of view on this, I would say after probably a month or two, you can just get rid of them. Peter says you can use them as kindling to start fires. All right. Gene says, where do I find the document to order supplies? Okay, that's a good one. There is a document sharing section here in BNI Connect. The way to get to this one's kind of hidden in a secret place. What we want to do is go to the My Network menu. So you got to go back to the home screen here and you can click on My Network. Now this is kind of like the network drop down over here, but has a couple of other options. In here you see a thing that says Documents, and you can see there's 43 documents that have been uploaded and are shared in our region. These just have documents that are shared in our region. So if I want to look at these documents, I would click the More button under Documents. And here I would see all of the documents that are shared in our region. Now, I can see 43 of them because of my permissions. Depending on what position you are, some of them are only shared with vice presidents, some of them are only shared with directors, but you would see all the documents that you have available here. Hopefully, there is an order form in here. I can just type order up here in the refine box, and here's the chapter supply order form, which you can download and then use to send to the office for a supply order. So again, that's back from the home screen. Click on the My Network and then click on More under the Documents. So does that answer your question? All right. What other questions you guys have? Again, I answer BNI Connect questions all day, every day, so I am happy to continue to answer questions as long as you guys have them. All right, while you're thinking of any final questions, just a reminder, this is, oh, hold on a second. We have a question. Woohoo! Vanessa says, when would we use the VP cumulative report? So let me go over to the reports section. And there are two VP reports. There's the VP report and the cumulative VP report. These should really be renamed, and this is the 1-month VP report, and this is the 6-month VP report. The 1-month VP report will show you any one single month of week-by-week activity. Right? So it shows me, you know what, let me switch back to Rhode Island here and get some real data for you guys. So the VP report, I'm going to look at my chapter for last month, for November. And here what we'll see is the weeks in November so far that they filled out POMS reports week by week by week, and all of the members, totals along the right, and then totals at the bottom, as well as thank you for closed business. So that's the week by week report. The cumulative VP report is the same thing, but it does it for month by month up to 6 months total. So I can look at, let's say, July through December. And again, it's pretty much the same layout, except instead of being week by week, we have month by month by month by month. So does that make sense, Vanessa? So it's really just POMS report, but broken down week to week or month to month. That is absolutely 100% correct. It's just another way to look at the POMS report. Now, if you need to review memberships, there's a great report. It's called the Personal POMS report. Now, that takes it to a macro level. This takes it to a micro level. So let's say that you're doing a 6-month review of a member, or you're doing a 3-month review of a member, or a renewal review of a member, and you want to look at just their POMS activity. So let me grab myself out of the list here. You can go to Personal POMS report, go to any member of your chapter, and you can do any length of time. So I can go back 5 years if I want to. What this does is it takes this one person and it plucks just them out of the PALMS report for that period of time. So I can click Go here and view my week-by-week activity, in this case going back to 2006, and take a look at what's happening week by week by week by week. At the bottom gives me a summary of attendance for that time screen, number of members I've sponsored in that time frame, and all the trainings attended during that time frame. So this is a great report for reviewing a membership. Now, I have a follow-up question here. What report is best that shows the attendance records? Now, there's two different places to show the attendance records, two different views of it, one of which is the absence report, the so aptly named absence report. So let's say I want to look at the last 6 months of records for absences. I can click this report, and that just shows the name, the absent, medical, late, and substitute during that time period. So I can very quickly see, I can see we have some people in danger here, 3 absences, 4 absences, so on and so forth. So this is one view of this. Now there's another view that I think is a pretty cool view of the attendance, and that's called the PALMS attendance report. Scroll down just a little bit. Again, you can look at it for a certain time period. Now what I like about this one is it kind of puts it in almost a calendar format. And the reason that I like this, it takes a minute to load, but the reason that I like this is that you can really look at trends this way. You can look at a specific person looking across and see, where those presents and absence and lates kind of fall into place here. You can see if people are missing like 2, 3, 4 meetings in a row and then all of a sudden they're back again. Or you can also view it on a weekly basis and say, hey, you know what, this week looks like we had a ton of absences. Or this week it looks like we had perfect attendance. So again, it's just another view. You may find this one easier to view, again, by exporting this to Microsoft Excel. And you can view more data on the screen that way. So Rose, does that help? Those are the two attendance reports there. So again, it might be easier to highlight. Here you can also go in, and if you remember my favorite button, and that is Format as Table. But here you could actually sort it by, let's say, sort this by absences. So I can see exactly who was absent on a particular week and really kind of play with the data a little bit more. All right, let's see. Russ has a question. How do I connect members to my network from other chapters? So the way to add members from other chapters is what you need to do is find them in BNI Connect. And you do that by searching for them. So there's a couple of ways to do that. If we go back to the home screen, and we're on the My Network, under Connections, you can click the Add button. Or from any screen that you happen to be on in BNI Connect, there's a little magnifying glass up here in the upper right-hand corner. Click that magnifying glass. So from here, all you need to do is search for the person. You can search, if you don't know their name, you can search by keywords, or let's say massage therapist in Florida. But let's say, Russ, I'm going to search for you since you raised the question. Hopefully I got your name right here. I type your name in, I click search, and there you are, Russ Watton. Now I can either click on your profile, and it looks like you have a nice, full, complete profile. Excellent job, Russ. And if I'd like to, then I can add you to my connections. I click Add Russ to my connections. I can type a personal message if I want to. and click Submit. After that, I can close out of this, close out of your profile. You'll see that Add Rust to My Connections has gone away because I've already sent you a request. And once you accept my connection request, you'll appear in my connections list. And again, this works, by searching for keywords as well. Let's say I'm looking for an accountant in Rhode Island. I can see all of the accountants in Rhode Island. I can click on somebody's profile. It opens it up in a new tab so I don't lose my search. And I can choose whether or not I would like to connect to this person. Obviously, the easiest way is by name, but this also, this is a global database, so this searches not just here locally, but this searches for anybody around the world. And you can do an advanced search too, so let's say you're traveling to Germany, and this lists all of the countries where BNI has a presence. So let's say I'm traveling to Germany, and I need to find somebody that might be in automotive or travel. Let's try somebody in travel that might be able to give me a ride from the airport. I can click Search, and it brought me up over 250 entries. From here, I can further refine that search, and I don't know if taxi is going to be a word. Transportation, and I might give Ahmet a call to see if he can pick me up at the airport. Russ, does that help? All right, that was the last question. What else you guys got? All right, if you guys found this helpful and you would like to do this again sometime, please shoot an email to Brenda or Peter or whoever else, whoever your director is. I'm happy to set up additional webinars for our region to go through all sorts of things in BNI Connect. I also have a monthly webinar schedule going through all of BNI Connect, every single last piece of it. Please join me for those. A good referral for me is to please ask your chapter members to join me on the webinars that I do on a monthly basis for BNI Connect. So, all right, if there's no additional questions, I am going to say thank you for your time. I look forward to talking to you on next month's. I think we'll be doing a traditional conference call unless we want to do another webinar. So, and I'll get you guys the recording as soon as possible. Happy connecting, everyone, and I will speak with you soon.